For how much? 2 of them for under $100?
And they're good, pretty good quality. That way we wouldn't need these.
Shoot me a link to those. Shoot me a link to those.
Okay. I haven't checked if Hubbard has them, but I was looking at Amazon.
Yeah. Amazon's good. Ready?
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Yay! Another Sunday, and here we are together. Woohoo! Can't be a bad day when I see all your beautiful faces. I'm Sarah Benson. Welcome to the Center for Spiritual Living in the heart of Las Cruces. And we're going to start with a couple of songs, which is a great way to express our love and gratitude. So I invite you to stand if you'd like, and yeah, let's do it.
It's great to see you. Hey friend, you're not alone. Come in, our hearts are open. Welcome home. Come on, the Spirit's moving. Our love is here to grow. Wake up, our coffee's brewing. Welcome home. This is my place. This is your place. This is our place. Welcome home. Hello. This is my place. It's great to see you. Hey friend. This is your place. You're not alone. Come in. This is our place. Our hearts are open. Welcome home. Come on. This is my place. The Spirit's moving. Our love this is your place. Is here to go. Wake up. This is our place. Our coffee's brewing. Welcome home. Welcome home. Welcome home. Yes, I am here to love. Yes, I am here to serve. Yes, I am here to be the love of God. Yes, I am here to love. Yes, I am here to serve. Yes, I am here to be the love of God, my God. And I know forevermore that I am loved. Yes, I know forevermore that I am loved. Yes, I am here to learn. Yes, I am here to live. Yes, I am here to be the love of God. Yes, I am here to learn. Yes, I am here to live. Yes, I am here to be the love of God, my God. And I know forevermore that I am loved. Yes, I know forevermore that I am loved. Yes, I am here to love. Yes, I am here to serve. Yes, I am here to be the love of God, my God, of God, my God, of
Well, good morning. You know, you guys sound pretty good. And we read pretty well too, don't you think? My name is Tina Bailey. I'm a practitioner here, and it's my delight to be here this morning in this cool room with you cool folks. So thank you for joining us this morning. We welcome you to the Center for Spiritual Living, where our vision is a world in loving partnership for the good of all. And I feel that when I'm in here. We welcome anyone who's visiting here for the first time. And please help yourself to a packet of information that's back on the table by the exit doors. As you go through it, be sure to notice that there's a gift certificate to the bookstore. We want to give you something for joining us this morning. And fill out the front form with an email if you want to get on our email newsletter list. Today, we're excited that you have all been invited to join in a discussion later after the service about the forward direction of this center. Therefore, you are all invited to stay after service. There is food to share, by the way. We will have small group discussions while we eat, and a large group sharing all before our board meeting, which will follow this gathering. You are welcome to stay beyond that for the rest of the board meeting, or leave as we delve into the rest of the board meeting. This is a really exciting and pivotal time for the center, so we are excited to get everyone involved. Each one of you here knows how much the center has made a difference in your lives, and so we thank you for being here. And we are also continuing to be open to any qualified member stepping up to join the board as an appointee until the next board meeting in May, next annual meeting in May. We're also welcoming anyone who would like to train to help with the Zoom on Sunday mornings. So if you know someone who is really a techie and would like to volunteer time to help us out, please send them our way. Thank you to all who contributed to the new and much-needed vacuum cleaner. And we still are accepting donations to fully cover the cost. There's a basket in the social hall where you can add some of your change that might be weighing your pockets down, or dollar bills are stuffing your wallet. So we would appreciate any assistance on that. And now it is time to register for booth spaces at the Southern New Mexico Pride Festival, the first weekend in October. We've attended for several years, and we would love to attend again. But now we are ready to make space for a new group of volunteers to help with the setup, to man the booth and the bookstore sales, and then to stay for the cleanup or come at the end for the cleanup only. We would also love to have someone sign up to coordinate and be the contact person for this event. So please let a board member know if you are interested, and you can sign up on the sheet in the social hall. If there are no sign-ups, we will not participate this year, so let us know which way you'd like us to go. Thanks. And by the way, I've been reminded as I was looking at the board back there, all the name tags that are on the board and that are not on the folks, that we would like you to look over there, find your name, put it on. We know you know who you are, but we have all kinds of people coming in, and we'd like them to acknowledge you by name. So I just happened to pick one at random, someone who, there you go. Someone at random who's very important to the center. We all know her. She knows her name. But I'm calling her out because I found her name tag on the board. Karen Boyer. Thank you. So we're up for a wonderful morning. And now it's my pleasure to introduce my favorite practitioner. I want you to know that it's wonderful if you have your own practitioner or you have anyone from this center. The practitioners are available. He helps pull me back when I'm feeling ain't it awful? Or, oh my goodness, da da da, he reminds me the truth. So it's wonderful. I encourage you all to find a practitioner that helps you remember the truth. Thank you.
Well, good morning. That is obviously my favorite practitioner, too. That's a reminder of also what a wonderful thing classwork is, because that is the one thing that got the two of us to be each other's practitioner and to truly become aligned. So it's a wonderful thing for everyone to consider getting into. So again, I'm Doug Bailey. I'm the practitioner that's fortunate enough to be with you this morning. We believe in the power of prayer, which we call spiritual mind treatment or affirmative prayer. If there is anything going on in your life that you would like to have a little bit of assistance working through in an alignment with the efforts you're putting into it, there are prayer cards in the chairs in front of you, except yours, which is behind you. And there is a God can in the back that you can put them into. We have a wonderful group of people that meet once a week on Tuesdays at 4 o'clock from all of the different centers around well, let's put it this way, among the new thought centers in the area. And has the practitioners and ministers that'll be working with you and solving whatever the energy that surrounds your situation is. There will be a group of us that have these on, except Teresa, who hasn't put hers on yet. And if you would, if there's anything that you want dealt with today, we will be available to you. That said, we are going to have time for song, silence, and prayer. We are surrounded in this valley with magnificent expressions of the divine, the beauty of the sunrise, sunset, the magnificent orchards, and the people and animals. The center gives us an opportunity to truly recognize that we are a conduit through which the divine expresses. And as we are aligned with that magnificent energy, we truly can make a wonderful difference in our own lives and those lives around us. Let us see this center as an opportunity to truly step into that magnificence, to truly align ourselves with that and be in a position to truly make a difference in the lives around us. And I have the pleasure to do a reading this morning that was really impactful to me, and I hope it is impactful for all of you. There is a power in the universe that honors our faith in it. There is a law in the universe which extracts the utmost farthing. We all wish to feel the power behind everything is good as well as creative, an eternal and changeless intelligence which man lives and moves and has his being in. Intuitively, we sense that every man in his native state is some part of the manifestation of this eternal principle, and that the entire problem of limitation, evil, suffering, and uncertainty is not God ordained, but is the result of ignorance. It has been written that truth shall make us free, provided we know the truth, and we note that the evolution of man's consciousness brings with it the acquisition of new powers and higher possibilities. We find ourselves torn by confusion, by conflict, by affirmation and denial, by emotional congested by fear, congealed by pride. We are afraid of the universe in which we live, suspicious of people around us, uncertain of the salvation of our own souls. All these things negatively react and cause physical disorder. Nature seems to weight our comprehension of her, and since she is governed by immutable laws, the ignorance of which excuses no man from their effect. The bondage of humanity must be a result of our ignorance of the true nature of reality. The storehouse of nature may be filled with good, but this good is locked to the ignorant. The key to this door is held in the mind of intelligence, working in accordance with universal laws. Through experience, man learns that what is really good and satisfying, what is truly worthwhile. As his intelligence increases and his capacity to understand the subtle laws of nature grows, we will gradually be set free as we learn the truth. The truth will automatically set us free. Isn't that wonderful?
Yep.
I think we have music. Sarah?
We do. So yeah, Doug and I are going to do this song that's got more words per second than most of the ones we do, so hold on. It's called Stand Together. It's by Harold Payne and Faith Rivera. And it encourages to live the dream of our highest calling. So, spend a few minutes here with us thinking about your biggest vision and version of you and of us collectively, of the center. All right, stand together.
Something great is happening. Love has taken hold and it won't let go of us now.
Something here is calling us forward, upward motion. We're drops in one ocean, roll on.
Will you rise up with me today? Lift up your voice and boldly say,
We are the ones we've been waiting for. The dream of your highest calling, be the hope of a new day dawning. We're the ones who can make a difference. Let's stand together. Share your gifts with the world that's waiting for a change that we're all creating. It's the moment for our greatness. Let's stand together now.
oh yeah. Every day's a chance you can do something amazing to feel your passion blazing and shine, yeah.
Paint with every vision, dance in new directions, and flow to new heights in your mind.
I will rise up with you today. Lift up my voice and boldly say,
We are the ones we've been waiting for. The dream of your highest calling, be the hope of a new day dawning. We're the ones who can make a difference. Let's stand together. Share your gifts with the world that's waiting for a change that we're all creating. It's a moment for our greatness. Let's stand together now.
let's stand together. Hey, hey, hey.
One dream, one voice, one heart, one world. One dream, one voice, one heart, one world. One dream, one voice, one heart, one world. Stand together. Let the dream of your highest calling be the hope of a new day dawning. We're the ones who can make a difference. Let's stand together. Share your gifts with the world that's waiting for a change that we're all creating. It's a moment for our greatness. Let's stand together. One dream, one voice, one heart, one world. One dream, one voice, one heart, one world. One dream, one voice, one heart, one world. Stand together now.
Good job, you guys. I think they got those words out. I understood them. Thank you very much. We're always grateful for the work that you put into the music that we get to enjoy, right, on a Sunday morning. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Well, good morning, everyone. Wow, welcome home. Look at all these faces that we haven't seen for a while. It's so good to have those of you back who have been gone for a while. And of course, the ones that have been showing up all along, it's great to see you as well. And here comes Nancy. I've got to call her out. Yay, Nancy, it's good to see you again, too. One of our past board members, and she is always so welcome here, like all of you. I'm Reverend Bonnie, the community spiritual leader here. I think most of you already know that. And I'm grateful to be here as we continue this topic this month called Speaking Truth to Circumstance. Speaking truth to circumstance. So I had to take some time to think about what does that mean? And how do we do that? What are we talking about with this topic of speaking truth to circumstance? I know for myself over the last several years, I've been hearing people talk about the importance of speaking truth to power, but I'd never heard it as speaking truth to circumstance. So I started by my favorite thing, Googling. Used to be looking it up in the dictionary. Googled what did it mean to stand or to speak our truth to power. And what was given as an answer to that is to stand for what's right and tell people in charge what's what. Well, clearly the people in charge are seen as those who have power. And so the person who's standing up for what's right might feel like they don't have the same amount of power as that person. But what does that have to do with our topic of speaking truth to circumstance? Well, in religious science, in New Thought, part of what we know is that sometimes we believe that our circumstances have power over us, that somehow we've given our power away to the circumstances in our life, in the world around us. And so the same idea that applies to this of speaking truth to power can apply to speaking truth to the power we think these circumstances have in our life and how we stand up to those circumstances. When we do a treatment, which somebody's already mentioned this morning is affirmative prayer, it's our way of praying. When we do that treatment process or an affirmation, what we are doing is treating to change those circumstances. We're realizing the power that we've given away, and we're also aligning ourselves with the true power that we have, the capital P and the capital T truth that we are speaking to that circumstance in order to realign ourselves with our greater truth. Ernest Holmes says effective treatment must be independent of any existing circumstances. So again, we're looking at those circumstances and then speaking the truth of what it is we know is real for us as opposed to what is appearing real and what's showing up out there. So in a treatment, we are essentially speaking truth to power. We're speaking truth to that power we believe circumstances have. And when I Googled this topic, I found 5 tips for how to speak truth to power. And this was out of Wikipedia, and I don't usually use that as a reputable source all the time. But this article was interesting, and I thought these 5 tips could help us when I took them and looked at how we might use them as we speak truth to circumstance. So the first tip that was given is that before you actually start speaking, you take a broader view, you take a look at different points of view around whatever that circumstance is, whatever that situation might be. And they did say in this article that you could use this when you're talking about power dynamics between you and someone in your personal life, whether it's at work, whether it's out in the world, whether it's what I would call any circumstance that you believe has this power that you're wanting to speak to and bring a greater truth to. So the first thing, again, is to broaden your viewpoint. Look at what you're seeing as a situation or as a circumstance from as many points of view as you possibly can, different angles. Try and know and understand and see all sides of whatever the situation might be. If there's a person you're interacting with, their side as well. What might they be thinking and feeling and saying or believing? Be sure that you haven't misunderstood something in that situation. Look for clarity and imagine how the other person, if there are other people involved, might feel hearing your point of view. Try and put yourself in their shoes. You do all that before you start to speak. The second thing is you seek several opinions about how you might express what it is that you want to speak, what your truth is. And I thought about what Tina and Doug were saying about each other as practitioners in each other's lives. We can go to a practitioner and try out what it is we want to say. We've got this circumstance, we want to speak a treatment, we want to speak truth. So we try it out with a practitioner and you might get greater clarity. You might get other opinions about how you could speak your truth more clearly in that situation. So you try it out with other people, whether it's a friend, a practitioner, someone else. This is what I want to say. This is the truth I want to speak. How does it sound? Am I getting it out clearly? And they also pointed out that it's important to notice the difference between complaining and just stating facts, things that have actually happened, and the difference between venting, sort of spewing what's going on, to just explaining it so the person has a clearer idea before you speak that truth. So to be cautious about that as well. And to be open to listening to the other, whoever that might be, the person you're sharing it with or the person you might want to speak that truth to, being open to listening to what they have to say as well. The third thing is to recognize your own position, to be clear about where you stand and what it is your part in the situation. So you're looking at your part as to what has helped to bring about whatever those circumstances might be. You look to see if you have any certain privileges that might not benefit you in a sensitive situation. Or are you sharing privileged information that isn't yours to share? So you look at all of that. What is your part? What is it that you are wanting to say? What is the role that you've played in this scenario? And then you plan ahead. You get clear about your points, and we talk about that when we do a treatment. We want to know, what are we treating for? What are the things we are standing for? What are the points that we are wanting to speak that truth about, whether we're speaking it in a treatment or to someone else? And once you're clear on that, you want to be prepared to answer any questions that might come your way when you do speak this truth. Fifth is to be prepared for a reaction. And they're looking at this like you might be talking to a person. And they said, no one likes to be told they're wrong. Be prepared for them to challenge you, and be ready to listen again, to take into account their side, what they're saying, their perspective. Well, as I looked at this in regard to speaking truth to circumstance, when I was thinking about the things that we often treat for, I thought about how it is when we say an affirmation, when we say a treatment, we are doing that in a way that we are speaking truth to that power that we think that circumstance has. Ernest Holmes in the Science of Mind text says, healing is not accomplished through willpower, but by knowing the truth. This truth is that the spiritual person is already perfect, no matter what the appearance may be. And remember that that applies to every person involved in whatever the scenario is, whatever the circumstance or situation. A treatment should leave the practitioner, and that's a small p. So any of us that do a treatment, say a prayer, however we do, it should leave us in a better condition than before we gave the treatment. And Holmes also, though, talks about the importance of not just what we're speaking, not just the words, but how we feel about those words, the feeling behind those words, and the feeling as we speak those words. So it's not just a head thing, it's the whole feeling goes in with the words. When I was a kid, my mother took me to a church, and on the wall, written across the wall, it said, "The truth shall set you free." And these words were attributed to the master teacher, Jesus. And I would ponder those words. As a kid, those words stuck in my head. And of course, as a kid, I took that to mean I should never tell a lie. And so I was, constantly thinking, well, am I telling the truth? And what happens if I tell the truth? And how will that person take it? When they ask you, do you like my dress? No, So I constantly was playing with those words. The truth shall set you free. As I've gotten older, they've taken on a different meaning. And some of that meaning has to do with speaking truth to power, or speaking truth to that power we have given to circumstances. It's that kind of truth that I find will set us free, because it sets us free from having power over us, from letting something else be in charge as opposed to the divine, the truth of who we are, our own awareness of who we are. So by using the power of our word and those words of truth, we interject a different kind of power into the situation as we speak those words, and that is how we bring about different results. You're going to hear a lot of Ernest Holmes today, because I found a lot of his teaching, once again, that I resonate with. So this is on page 189 in our main textbook. Truth knows no opposites. When we take away the belief in evil, the belief that the outward appearance is the same as the inner reality, evil flees. We must continually remind ourselves of the power of the word and of our ability to use it. We must know that truth produces freedom because truth is freedom. Our work will best be done in quiet expectancy and in calm confidence. The results rest in the eternal law of good. The sentence that really struck me in that was that truth produces freedom because truth is freedom. That was something different for me to kind of think about and chew on as I read that this time. So as we speak truth to circumstances, I think just like those 5 tips advised, we need to be ready for some kind of reaction, some kind of kickback. And I thought, well, where does that necessarily come from? It's not always from someone else. Sometimes it's that subconscious of ours. How many times have you spoken a treatment or said an affirmation? I look at Edie because she's the affirmation queen. When you say those words and something back here is going, oh, that's not true. Or who do you think you are to say that or expect that? Or something in you is going, you might not really deserve that. Whatever it is you're speaking. And I see a lot of heads nodding. Maybe it's the feeling. It's not just the thinking. Maybe there's a feeling of, I don't know if this is really true. I'm saying these words because I want them to be true, but you don't have the feeling yet that they are true. And so to me, that is our circumstances, whatever those current conditions are, kicking back, trying to get back that power. It's not like they are an entity in and of themselves, but I kind of saw that as the same as getting that kickback from a person who I might be sharing my truth with and hearing something different or getting a different reaction that I would have wanted. So I think we need to be careful as we speak truth to our circumstances to listen to that kickback within ourselves. Listen to the reaction that we might be having to the truth that we are speaking. So what can we do and how do we handle that? Again, it's this idea of standing firm in our truth. And the way we do that, I go back to tip number 1, which was to broaden our perspective of what it is we're looking at. In one of our classes, we have an exercise that we ask the students to do, and that is to look through the newspaper, online, find an article that is disturbing to you, bring that article into class, and then during class, we have discussion around how could this situation or circumstance be the very best thing that could have ever happened? And that usually throws people, what? We don't want to look at whatever these things are that are showing up as circumstances and see them as the best thing that could have ever happened. And yet we're challenged when we ask that question to look at the situation from a much broader point of view, to look at all the different scenarios, all the different people involved, all the different things that have happened, and to just ask that question, how could this be the best thing for these people, for this situation, for the world? And keep seeing if we can expand how it is we're thinking about what it is that we're seeing. I wasn't going to mention this because I might go over my 20 minutes, but I just read a book called Tenderland for my CEUs for my interpreting. And in there, one of the themes that I realized is that he presents something and you think, oh, that's horrible. And then as the story goes on, you get a different perspective and you see how this thing really was a good thing, how it really saved the situation or brought somebody into the picture that they needed down the line. So I think about that when we look at our circumstances right now. How can this be the best thing? We're just stretching our thinking in our minds. And in our current class, Change Your Thinking, Change Your Life, we had a discussion around this question. Since God is everywhere, is God in a cancer cell? That generated a really good discussion that day, a lot of talk about what did that mean, and if God was in the cancer cell because God is everywhere present, what did that mean? And how did we interact then with those cells? What did that look like? And does that cancer cell then need to be alive in us, or can we ask it to leave? Again, Ernest Holmes, this is one of my favorite passages of his because it reminds me that this isn't just all about letting everything walk all over us. He says, "From this teaching, we are not to suppose that we are to love that in each other which does not savor of right. We are to love the right alone. We are to look for God in each other and love this God, forgetting all else. But would this compel us to accept from people that which is not good? Of course not. It is not necessary for one to make a doormat of himself in proving that God is love. For this would be like suffering for righteousness' sake, which is always a mistake." Now, those are pretty strong words that he's using in that paragraph. But what that had said to me is that I can look for God and know that God is in everyone and in every situation and in every place. It doesn't mean that then I go, oh, okay, well, whatever you want to do is cool, and let them or it walk all over me. I had my own diagnosis with cancer, and I was like, all right, God might be in those cells, but you don't get to live here anymore. And I had them removed. That was my choice. But that was how I was approaching it. Seeing God in everything doesn't mean that we have to let it walk all over us. It doesn't mean that we can't stand for a greater expression of ourselves, a greater truth, a greater expression of the wholeness that we are. And again, Ernest Holmes, I told you to get a lot of him today. This is on page 42. He says, "Insofar as anyone has spoken the truth, he has proclaimed God." I thought that was a powerful sentence. "It matters not what his particular approach may have been. The scientist and the philosopher, the priest and the professor, the humanitarian and the empire builder, all have caught some gleam of the eternal glory, and each has spoken in his own tongue that language which is of itself universal." So again, this idea that truth as it's spoken can come out in many different forms and through all kinds of people, through all people, that we all have that kernel, that universal truth within us. And so as I continued to look at this and think about, okay, it doesn't mean I have to be a doormat. I don't have to just let everything happen. I can take a stand. In our discussion around the cancer cells, it turned out that several of us in the class had had that diagnosis. And each one of us had come up with our own way of essentially speaking truth to that circumstance. Each one of us had come up with what worked for us in terms of how we were going to deal with that diagnosis and what was going on. So the how wasn't as important as the doing of the speaking of the truth to that circumstance in whatever way worked for us. Some of the examples was, like I said, surgery. Somebody said, if you're not going to play nice, you need to leave. You know, there's radiation, chemo, natural remedies, diet changes, prayer. And in the case of my mother, Reverend Terry pointed out that even death was her choice to get to freedom. Her healing was through death, not through continuing to live with it. And that, of course, took some work for me to wrap my head around, but that was a choice, that she did not choose to do anything other than prayer. And eventually her body said, go ahead, spirit, take off, and your body gets to stay here. As Joel Goldsmith says, seeing it return into the nothingness from which it came. And that was what I was working on seeing for my mother. Ernest Holmes, in our reading, and thank you, Doug, for doing the reading, said, as our intelligence increases and our capacity to understand the subtle laws of nature grow, we will gradually be set free. As we learn the truth will automatically free us. And so again, it's looking at how do we get to that place of freedom? How do we speak truth to circumstance, to situations, to whatever it is we feel has power over us, and move into the true power that is ours, the power of spirit in our lives. And again, I think that tip number 1 is really important. As we broaden and look at things from all angles, looking at, okay, where is God? How is God showing up? Looking at the gifts and the truths, looking for what isn't in alignment with truth and how we might get it back into alignment, looking for where God is and continuing to shine more light there, looking for where God could show up more and shining light there to allow that to take place, looking at what our bodies, minds, and spirits, our emotions, are telling us in any given situation. And I also think it's important to look at where is fear showing up. How is fear showing up? Why is it there? What beliefs do we hold that are creating fear? And what other beliefs might other people involved have that are creating fear in them? We've talked a lot about how when we start to broaden our view, we can get curious. And when we start to get curious and delve into what's going on in here, get curious about that inside ourselves, and get curious about what's going on in the others involved in that situation, as we expand our desire to know through curiosity, fear reduces. And as we listen to those involved, whatever fears they have tend to be reduced. So those two things are part of the tools that we have to work with fear. In the Science of Mind text itself, Ernest Holmes has a whole section called How to Address Cancer. And for anyone who wants it, it's on page 235. But one of the questions he asks in there is, what is eating at you? So see how he's taking what's going on in the body, mind, spirit, all in one. In the section where he talks about heart issues, physical heart issues, he says, where is love? What is blocking your experience of love? So he's expanding his view from just the physical out to what's going on emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and asking questions, getting curious about the whole spectrum and how that's impacting us. And from the answers to those questions, then can create that which wants to be spoken to the circumstance. Asking those questions helps us to allow the healing to be revealed. So I've been talking a lot about how it is that we can practice speaking truth to circumstances in our personal lives, and we can also see how this works out in the world. And when we do that, I think it's very important that we remember the principle of oneness. We remember that our core belief is that we are one with God, with each and every expression of God, which is every other person in the world, no matter how they're expressing. And as hard as it might be to say, I'm one with that, yes, we are one with all of it. And as we move from that principle of oneness, then we can look at how we might speak truth to the circumstances that have started to show up. When we see things that appear like inequalities or unfair or things that we don't like to see, aspects of society that we would like to see changed in order to create the more beautiful world we know is possible from that one book I shared with you, or as we say in our global heart vision, that world that works for everyone. This is part of what we are doing as we are creating that world. So maybe there's a situation in your life where you're interacting with someone. For me, interacting with people who are very angry is a difficult thing. So for me, that's where I need to look at how's it impacting my body, how does it impact my mind and my ability to function, and how can I move into a space of truth. Now, it didn't say my truth, it said truth with a capital T. So how do we go through these tips? How do I do that and stay in a place that's clearly truth, not just my truth? I'm going to tell you what I think, that piece. So as we go through that process, we are allowing our prejudices, our privileges, and our preconceived notions, our opinions to fall away as we're peeling back and getting down to the truth with a capital T. In our community book that we've been reading as a book study, and that was by John Block, the topic for this last week was dissent. And this was defined by him as the right or ability to say no. And he defines this as a positive thing. And I will let you know that all of us are still chewing over that in the book study. And for me personally, it took a lot of chewing. because I have been sort of raised in that idea of, oh, we just want to be positive, we want to say yes, we want to make sure everybody's happy and on the same page. You know, that's been my goal. So to look at the option for people to say no or to dissent as a good thing is a whole new way of looking at things for me. It's a shift in my thinking, and yet he makes a very good case for that. So as we are speaking truth to power or speaking truth to circumstance, in reality, we're saying no to something, and we're saying yes to something else. We're saying yes to a change in those circumstances, in those situations. And so what has been helpful is he makes a distinction between inauthentic dissent and authentic dissent. And what he calls authentic dissent does not include, and so it's, again, difficult for me because I try and avoid all these nots, but it does not include denial, rebellion, or resignation. And I'm going to explain those as much as I can in the short amount of time, but I will tell you again, in the book study, we spent an hour chewing on all these. And we're probably going to continue. If you want to, they're page 142 to 144 in that community book. And just go through and read it again and see what he's saying about dissent. So in terms of denial, one of the things he's saying is that when we deny our part in it, that's not an authentic dissent. That's inauthentic dissent. When we're like, well, I'm perfectly good, you all are the problem, and I don't like what you're doing. So he's saying that is not authentic dissent. And to me, that also resonates with what Ernest Holmes taught. We look at our role, our part in the circumstances that are showing up, because it is only within us that we can change them. The second thing was rebellion. And in rebellion, he defines that as when someone is avoiding responsibility or trying to place blame on others. And again, authentic dissent does not include blaming others or shirking our own responsibilities. The third one, resignation, is when one has feelings or acts powerless. And he said it is a stance against possibility. And for me, the terminology I would use is it's that victim mentality. So authentic dissent does not include saying, I'm the victim, you all or they all did this to me and I was the victim. That is not authentic dissent. Authentic dissent continues to see possibility, to hold possibility, and to know that there's still power behind our dissent. So again, this is a new concept for me. Something that I am continuing to wrap my brain around as we do this book study, because it is opening to this idea that every single one of you has a right to look at me and say, no, I don't like that. And I need to see the power in that, the beauty in that, the fact that he says that actually makes the yes even better. When someone can say no, their yes has more meaning. And so for me to remember that and to continue to see that in this process of speaking truth to power, speaking truth to circumstance, what am I saying no to? What am I saying yes to? I again encourage that there are more details in the book than I just summarized really quickly, and it's a lot to continue to think about. But for me, it's important to start looking at the power of the no, the importance of that and the positivity between that ability to say no and also knowing what we're saying yes to. So as we speak truth to circumstance, are we doing that dissent free from denial, rebellion, or blaming someone else, and resignation or saying, I'm the victim? Just food for thought. As I Googled this concept again, I also came up with this saying, why is truth so powerful? Because it is the only thing that can't be bought. And I thought that was interesting. Now, when they said it's the only thing that can't be bought, of course, my mind goes, well, that's not true. Because I think love can't be bought, joy, peace. But then that said to me that truth is another one of those God qualities. because those things, love, peace, joy, freedom, these things you can't buy, are part of those things that we call God qualities. So truth now is in with that. As we speak truth, we are speaking essentially all those things, love, peace, joy, anything that we would call a God quality. In our community commitment that we say at the annual meeting and that the board members say at each of our monthly meetings, we say we promise to speak the truth in love. And so again, it's important to me to see truth and love in the same package. They are one and the same. We also say healing is revealing, and what's being revealed? The truth of that situation. So as we speak truth to consequences, to circumstances, to situations, we are allowing that healing to be revealed. Recently, I got a memo from my alma mater, which is Grinnell College, and it was interesting because it was a memo addressing the Supreme Court decisions recently around the Students for Fair Admissions versus the President and Fellows of Harvard College, and the Students for Fair Admissions versus the University of North Carolina. And I know that probably even within this room there are different opinions about this decision, if you're even aware that it took place and what it's about. And so I wanted to just share some of what they said because I found it interesting how they're looking at dissent, because they quote some of the dissent that was written by some of the Supreme Court justices that did dissent. Said, if the colleges in this country are required to ignore things that matter, it will not just go away. It will take longer for racism to leave us, and ultimately, ignoring race just makes it matter more. And I thought, well, that's interesting, because we're talking about being able to look at something, see what that situation is, what is that circumstance, and then speak truth to it, bring a greater truth to it. And one of the things I know I've been looking at and working on lately is my tendency to not want to look at that. Not want to look at the things I don't like, to just go immediately to, well, the truth is we're all one, so racism doesn't exist. And this was saying to me from another source, if we have to look at things, because if we don't look at them, they don't go away. And I thought that was an interesting approach. And then another one of the people who had a dissent said, that, well, first of all, the college is saying that they're affirming the values of academic excellence, a diverse community, and social responsibility. And they're affirming equality for all. And I thought, okay, so they're looking again at the potential and what they want to affirm. And this other person said, the only way out of this morass for all of us is to stare at racial disparity unblinkingly and then do what evidence and experts have told us will level the playing field. But that idea, again, of looking at it unblinkingly, what am I seeing, and then expanding what we think about it. Now, again, I know that several of us might have different opinions about how to handle this situation, but it takes me back to what I said a few weeks ago about when you see it, then you can say it, and then you sort it out. So to see it means we have to look at it, which for me is different, is new. And I've probably said this a million times, so I keep thinking it's new. But it feels new because my gut reaction is to not look at it. My gut reaction is to only look at what's working. And so to see it and to really look at it unblinkingly and allow myself to look at that and then broaden what I'm seeing to include more views. What are all the different views here? And then say it, then to speak that truth to the circumstance. This is taking it to a different perspective. This is a different way of looking at things. So see it, say it, sort it. Then the actions come that will help me to know how to sort it out. And just like when we talked about the cancer cells, each of us might have a different way of being called to sort it out. What are we seeing as our role in addressing, whether it's the cancer in our body or the cancers in society? What are we doing to allow that truth to be spoken and our actions to sort out the situation? I think sometimes we seek to practice these principles in all our affairs. I take that sentence from 12-step. We want to practice these kinds of principles in all our affairs, and we can sometimes feel like it's mental gymnastics. That's what I've had someone tell me it felt like at times. And we are tempted, like I said, to do what I would call the spiritual bypass, to ignore what I'm seeing, to pretend like it's not there. And so my challenge now is to see no, to see dissent in a positive light, to see the good that it can bring into a situation. And again, some wisdom from Ernest Holmes. Disease is a fact, but not a truth. It is an experience, but not a spiritual reality. We must transcend the appearance, even though we admit it as a fact. We are not so cold-blooded as to say to a person with pain that there's no such thing as pain. That is not our idea or purpose. We admit the fact. It is quite a different thing to admit its necessity. We admit that there is unhappiness, but it would be unthinkable to admit that one has to be unhappy. Can you wrap your brain around that concept? So again, as we speak to looking at what are the facts, what are we seeing, what are people's experiences, we're not here to say, that's not real. We look at it, we see it, and then we can look at how we speak a greater truth to those circumstances. A truth of oneness, a truth of love, a truth that brings our word and power into the situation. So we see it, we say it, and then we let it sort out, allowing our lived experiences and circumstances to shift into greater alignment with that truth. And so it is. That was a lot, huh? And our practitioners are already moving into place. Thank you so much. I'm going to start our prayer with affirmative. This is from Meditations for Self-Help in the back of the Science of Mind text. These are words of Ernest Holmes. Well, I'll let Judy get out there and bring us some good energy. It is so good to see the room surrounded by practitioners. Thank you. Just knowing that they're here for you. Bounce ideas off of them. Let them work with you to feel how it is you can move into a greater truth and express it in your life. So now these are the words of Ernest Holmes. I keep the promise. I shall keep the promise that I have made to myself. I shall never again tell myself that I am poor, sick, weak, nor unhappy. I shall not lie to myself anymore, but shall daily speak the truth to my inner soul, telling it that it is wonderful and marvelous, that it is one with the great cause of all life, truth, power, and action. I shall whisper these things into my soul until it breaks forth into songs of joy with the realization of its limitless possibilities. I shall assure my soul. And so just taking those words in, recognizing the power of the word that we speak to ourselves and to those around us. How can we speak a greater truth? How can love be spoken through us as truth? How can we recognize other people's experiences and our own, knowing that we can speak truth to those circumstances and bring about a greater world, a world that we want to experience and that all people feel comfortable experiencing. So we give thanks again for stretching our minds and our thoughts and our ideas through all the different authors, through our founder, Ernest Holmes, through each person in this room who shares their ideas and thoughts and experiences with each other. We are all here to learn together, to grow together, and to experience life more fully together. And so for this, I give great thanks as we allow ourselves to stand in our power and remember we can always speak truth to circumstance. And so it is.
You've heard this song a time or two before, and I invite you to sing along. It's especially pertinent to, I think, what we're going to be discussing later. Ready? Some hands have held the world together. Some hands have been in wars forever. Tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine? Some hands have blessed 1,000,000 people. Some hands helped free the world from evil. So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine? What shall I do with these hands of mine? What shall I do with these hands of mine? The world could use a hero of the humankind. So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine? Some hands can stop a life from dying. Some hands comfort a baby's crying. So tell me, what can I do with these hands of mine? What can I do with these hands of mine? What can I do with these hands of mine? The world could use a hero of the humankind. So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine? I want to sing it from my heart. I want to hear it in the wind till it blows round the world and comes back again. And all that we can ask is for ours to be free, to use them when we want, for whatever the need. Some hands give voice to a nation. Some hands wrote the times they are a-changin'. So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine? Please sing. What shall I do with these hands of mine? What shall I do with these hands of mine? The world could use a hero of the humankind. So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine? What shall I do with these hands of mine? What shall I do with these hands of mine? The world could use a hero of the humankind. So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine? So tell me, what shall I do with these hands of mine?
Good question. Thanks, you guys. As usual, thank you, thank you. Well, I'm going to move quickly because we're getting ready to move in there. And Charlie, I do eventually want everyone to hear out there what I'm saying as well. But for now, as we think about giving back to the center, and we have collection plates on either door exit, we are giving 10% this month to distinguished young women in New Mexico. And it's a scholarship program for high school girls. And so you can read more about them and see who they are. There's information there. 10% of all that comes through this month is going to be given to them. So let's say our affirmation together, our blessing and gratitude. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God, in me. And we can sing, I am so blessed.
I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed, I am so blessed, I am so
am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful for all that I have. I am so blessed. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed. I am so grateful. I am so blessed.
And we are so blessed, and I want to thank Sarah and Doug and Kay again for our music this morning, and we just want to bless and hold in prayer Doug and Sarah as they take off for 2 weeks, and they will be going to that music symposium as part of their vacation, so I know they're going to come back totally jazzed with music for us. We're very excited about that. Yay! And so the next couple weeks, we look forward to our beloved Mary Lynn Brown being back and bringing us music. So don't miss that, and let's keep them in our prayers and our thoughts, and just know they have a fabulous trip. And before you all go into the social hall, before we sing our closing song, I want you all to know that there is food out there, and we encourage you to sit with people that you're not used to having conversation with. There will be questions on the tables for you to discuss with each other. We'll do that over food for a while, and then we'll move the tables and sit in a larger circle and have a whole group discussion. But we do strongly encourage you sit with people that you've never had a conversation with before, because part of this is about the conversation and just getting to discuss some of these questions with each other and see where we go as we move forward. And we have invited our sister community, Unity, so they are coming back from having gone to brunch together to join us in this discussion, since we share this building and we're part of what is going on. And we've also extended that to the AA meetings and NA meetings. So I don't know if any of those folks will be joining us, but we've extended that invitation to anyone who's using this space as part of the community as a whole that's under these roofs. So please keep that in mind. We can stand and sing our closing song. And thank you again so much for everyone being here.